So welcome to Monday.com Work Management. This is typically where we centralize every single project into one dedicated platform. And normally the question that I get straight off that is, Anel, how does all of my projects actually end up inside of Monday.com? So just to quickly explain to you guys how the project or how Monday.com is typically built and set up, you can integrate from various different sources. In other words, let's say everything started from your sales department. From a sales point of view, that you guys are running different, let's say, social media campaigns. So you could actually gather and receive leads from, let's say, Facebook or Instagram. It could be Google Ads that you're running where you're actually driving traffic to your website and people are completing a form on your website. It could be from a WhatsApp perspective. There's a lot of customers on this call today that we've already implemented WhatsApp Business API for, where a lot of the lead qualification actually takes place inside of Monday.com or inside of WhatsApp. And that is typically where we can integrate and drive all of those different sources into your single source of truth. You can, of course, at any point in time, come and load any leads manually, which we're going to get into now. And then last but not least, Monday.com can also cater from a form perspective. So we all know what a form is and what it looks like. You typically have your dedicated forms that lives on your website, and that's where you've got predetermined fields that you typically want a customer to complete. Now, Monday.com works on the exact same principle where you can actually share this form and have a person complete the form. Once that is done, it would also automatically sit inside of your dedicated workspace. Now, looking at the main workspace that we are working in today, you can typically set up Monday.com and have more than one workspace. So ideally, you can typically have your dedicated project team work off your one workspace, where you could typically have your technical team work off a different workspace, all inside of the same Monday.com environment. At the bottom, you'll notice that we've created what we call folders or different boards. And inside of these boards, we then go and help you to custom set this up. So we went with the real estate development scenario and use case of Ben, where we listened to what his current scattered work day-to-day looks like. And now we typically move into consolidating and having all of these projects sit in one central place. So for now, I'm just going to close that off. So currently, you'll be able to actually see that we've got dedicated stages and everything is customized according to your operational workflows. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and load a manual new project just to show you what that typically looks like. And then, of course, we tapped into a lot of different automations through Monday.com, as well as we have got AI agents that typically comes into play and assists us with the build pre-populations. So ideally, what you can see is once we have now loaded a new project manually, we're going to just give it a second or two. Then we have incorporated an AI agent, and her name is Susanna. Now, Susanna's main focus is to try and help you from an operational perspective by automating certain tasks. So you can set up Susanna in a way to pre-configure your boards with specific drop-down categories. In other words, as soon as a new project typically comes into play, Susanna will go and automatically assign the board to the dedicated people. So even though you've got your dedicated Monday.com workspace, you can add multiple different people that will be responsible for the different stages of your operational system. Now, looking at the current board, we can typically see that from a subcategory perspective, in the new projects, as soon as the new project typically lands, I can immediately start off with this little tick box that I need to start on. So I can say I'm busy looking at the permits. We are currently busy with the design approvals, and typically from here, we've pre-populated it where it will automatically go and select your start date. But more importantly, you can even go as far as saying, Anel, typically for my permits and my design approvals, if my start date is today, I typically need to be able to finalize this within a 24-hour mark. So we can already pre-populate your next due date based on your pre-configures, what you typically gave us. And as you progress through all of these different stages, you will typically have one glance to see exactly where you typically are at. Now, I can go and change the status to working on it, but let me quickly move over to the different phases, right? So we've got a new projects phase, we've got a pre-construction phase, we've got your final walkthrough and handover phase, and then we're sitting on a completed projects. So as you progress through these different stages, you'll notice that it's really super easy, all click buttons. I can select my phase, and the automations will once again help me to actually move this into the next tier within my workspace. While that is busy taking place, I'm going to point out that you can typically have multiple different columns, right? So because this is real estate, we've got a project budget. The project budget has typically been allocated, the start date of when this typical project came into the operational side of things, and what the due dates are. You'll also notice that we've built in automations where you can actually start tracking the amount of time that it took you to move from your first phase into the second phase. Now, why this is extremely important is it actually gives you a bird's eye view to see exactly not only where you are within your different stages or your phases, but it also shows you where you potentially stuck, where you might experience certain bottlenecks. And you can also pre-configure these different time tracking stages to say, if we do proceed, or if we reach a 24-hour mark or a 7-day mark, and we've not moved into the next phase, I want to actually escalate this. I want to be able to escalate the ops manager, and I want to be able to flag this and say to the ops manager, there seems to be some sort of a bottleneck here. We are experiencing X, Y, Z. And that is where Monday.com's AI agents typically comes into play and adds a lot of value. You can set up a lot of different AI agents within the Monday.com workspace, and we're going to get into that just now. But the long and the short is, for each and every single one of these agents, you can give them a persona, but also more importantly, a job description. So from a project management perspective, if you want to create an AI agent to also come in as an assistant to flag these bottlenecks, to be able to escalate certain things over to you, that is where it's going to save you a tremendous amount of time. Now, furthermore, you've got your contact information of the customer. You've got your different sources of where did this project originally come from. And when we've incorporated integrations, this is automatically pre-populated. You can, of course, like I mentioned, load a deal or a project manually. And for that, you can at any point in time add additional stages. And as you can see, super easy to go and configure. You can even change the color of it. You can hit apply, and typically the next stage would be available. Then, as far as the actual document look is concerned, this is just an example of what it can look like, but we can, of course, go and add in a lot of different other columns. If you need to focus on more than one person that will typically be responsible for certain stages, you can really go ahead and we can go and play around with all of these different options that we can add in from a management perspective. Right, so let's move over to the Barnard project. As you could see, I did change the status to pre-construction. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip a couple of steps, and I'm going to go right over to the completed projects. So for the Barnard project, we're going to go and hit complete projects. And this is typically where, again, from an automation perspective, it's going to now help you move out this specific project into the next phase. So as soon as that is done, you will be able to actually view all of your completed projects into one single board. And typically from here, you can pull analytics. But more importantly, where it adds a tremendous amount of value is we've also pre-configured Susanna, the AI agent, which is our support or our assistant from a project management perspective, to actually come and create a dedicated Monday document for you. Now, inside of this document, she can typically be able to provide a full report that pre-configures the timelines of exactly when this deal typically landed. How long did it take you for each and every single stage? But more importantly, you can also set up Susanna or your AI agent in a way to not only pre-configure a final handover in terms of your project report, but she can also make suggestions on how you can typically improve in your next report. Guys, I do apologize. I think because I have now switched over to my mobile phone, I think there's a slight delay. So this project seems to be, it needs to be just moving over to the bottom. So we're just going to give it a couple of seconds to actually do that. While we're waiting for this to happen, I'm going to move back into my dedicated boards, and we're going to move into the dashboard and reporting side of things. Now, a lot of customers that I've been speaking to in the last couple of weeks, specifically from an ops management perspective, have made comments where, because all of your data is currently scattered, you might have, some data recorded in an Excel spreadsheet, and because it's Excel and not Google Sheet, it's not live, so your data is not, 100% accurate. But from a document perspective, you might be storing your documents in a Google Drive folder, which again is siloed from your Google Sheet. And so a lot of these ops and project managers are spending 2 to 3 hours a day, it's just ridiculous, to actually go and build these reports manually. Now, with Monday.com, we can help you to pre-configure a dashboard from a reporting perspective that not only saves you time, but you can access this report literally with one click of a button. Furthermore, you can 100% customize this report. So even though we've added a couple of graphs, and I'm going to take you through this, you do have the functionality to add even more graphs in here. So you might get to a stage where, from a kickoff perspective, you tell us, TMN team, we need to be able to report on ABC. And once you start using this platform, you actually realize, but hang on, there's so much more that I can add. Let me report on XYZ as well. It's literally click of a button, we add the dedicated dashboards, and you will be able to report. So you can, at any point in time, obviously log into Monday.com and report directly from this dedicated workspace, or you can export these type of reports, but you can also schedule these reports. Just imagine that, to automatically be emailed to you. So you can decide to say, I want to be able to get an updated report every single morning at 8 o'clock, or once a week, or once a month, or whatever the case may be. Now, depending on what you actually need to report on, you can have a full bird's eye view to see exactly where you are. Currently, you've completed 4 projects. And again, your filter options here can be pre-populated to say, I want to be able to report on every single deal or project that landed in my workspace for this month. So you can really, from a filtering perspective, play around with your different phases, different timelines, and so forth. And based on that, you'll be able to report back on, you've got new projects too, you've got one that you, in the final end, you're busy with your walkthrough before handover, one currently sits in your pre-construction, and so forth. Then from a right-hand side perspective, this is actually where it starts drilling into, where is your time going to? And I think a lot of people are actually shocked when they start looking at these type of results, because now every single step is actually recorded. So you'll be able to very quickly identify that you've got a bit of a bottleneck as soon as you move from new projects over to pre-construction, as an example. And that allows us, again, to go and I don't want to say nitpick, but it allows us to go back and say, where can we improve? What can we change? What can we tweak to help you with this specific stage? So from a time perspective, you will be able to actually report back on how long does it take you on average per phase to actually finalize your project. Then moving down a little bit in terms of resource allocation, I know that this is also such a massive pain point in some industries, is that we've got the project, I've got 10 people in my team, but from a capacity perspective, I'm flying blind. You know, I've got no idea how many projects is Anel actually looking after, or what time is she actually spending on these projects. So as soon as a new project typically comes into play, how do I navigate and how do I know which specific staff member in my team has got capacity that I can now go and execute this project while within my timeline? So this is going to give you a really nice glimpse of what that resource allocation can look like. And of course, from a stat perspective, you can even branch this out a little bit further. Again, just a bit of a different view to be able to report back on your status and where are you within your project. And of course, you know, just highlighting the different cases of where you could potentially be stuck or experiencing a bit of a bottleneck. And then from a budget perspective, you can, of course, go and report on that. So every single line item that you typically have inside of this construction board, you can go and report on. And of course, your projects per budget this is where you can actually see all of your projects that's been finalized, which project has been the biggest. So we can see the Serengeti project has been 66% of our projects overall has definitely been the biggest one compared to this teeny tiny one, Parkrun Village at the end. And so from a reporting perspective, this is in a glimpse of what you can have access to. Very nice. Let's call it feature that you can also make a note of is that Monday.com, you can typically access this from your desktop or from any URL, yes. But you can also download Monday.com's app on your phone. And I'm just using myself as an example. I love looking at these dashboards. It gives me a quick, insights to know and understand exactly what's going on inside of my department. And so I can very easily access this type of reports on my way to work. Quick glimpse and see exactly what is going on. Now, just quickly moving back into my construction board. I just wanted to show you the initial Duplessis project that I've loaded. It was pre-populated automatically to go and add my future steps. But right at the bottom, let's quickly go over to the burnout project. As I scroll through to the right-hand side, you'll notice that this Monday document is now pre-populated. So I'm going to just go and click on it and show you what this typically looks like. And this is where Susanna comes into play and adds even more value. So remember that report that I was talking about, that you can typically be able to see what happened with my project, literally from the start until the end. This is all pre-configured. So Susanna gives you this report based on the burnout project. You'll be able to get a full project overview, who the project owner was, contact information, budgets, start date, end date, how long did the total planning duration last, and of course, what is the final status. Then she'll be able to drill in and say, from a phase perspective, what happened in your pre-construction. Now, obviously, this is from a demo perspective. It would have been great if every project could only take 3 minutes, even though we do believe this is going to add a lot of value and save some time. But you'll be able to drill in and report back on all of that. And yeah, you'll be able to actually understand what went well. So Susanna has been pre-configured and she's given not only a persona, but a very clear job description where she knows the ins and outs, not only of your business, but also from a project management perspective. So she's able to point out what went well, but also on the other side, the challenges that you guys faced and what you could typically have done a little bit better. Now, you can, from a project manager or ops manager perspective, typically utilize and actually understand and take this in. But we can also use this and actually pre-configure Susanna and give her a bit of an upskill, right? So we can say, okay, Susanna, we noticed that we were missing a phase in terms of tracking. I need you to help me track this phase a little bit better. So now all of a sudden, yes, she points out where you can typically improve, but you don't need to do this manually. We can still have Susanna to actually come in and do the work for you. And then last but not least, 5 key learnings and recommendations. and then your final steps in terms of timelines. And now this report, again, you can at any point in time actually pre-configure your style so you can make it look a little bit more prettier. You can add your logos and, do all of that. But you can typically also export, this document, but it will then always be saved automatically on this specific project. So at any point in time, Monday.com serves as the single source of truth. So you can always go back to that specific project. Alrighty, this is it from a Ben scenario. What did Ben's scattered Excel spreadsheets look like before, and what does Ben's scenario look like afterwards? Before we move back into the presentation, I just want to spend 5 minutes on the AI agents because I'm absolutely in love with this feature. And I want to show you how cute these AI agents actually are. Now, really easy to set up. You can go and build your own agent. So completely off scratch, you can give it a very specific job description and pre-configured text in terms of what they should do and what they shouldn't do and all of that. But there's already, from an agent perspective and from different department perspective, there's already pre-configured AI agents that you can go and play around with. I'm going to focus on the project manager ones for now, just to quickly show you what all of this looks like. So I'm going to start off with Liam. Liam is typically a project manager, and Liam has been tasked to capture your goals and scope so every project starts clear and finishes.
I'm Liam. I shape your goals and scope into a structured plan, so every project starts with clarity.
I hope that you could hear that. But this is typically where Liam also shows you what he will do for you. I'll read your project brief from the document or item that you link. I'll turn it into goals, scope, and milestones on your board. So Liam can actually go and have a look at the project scope that's been signed, sealed, and delivered directly from Ben, automatically go and pre-populate your subcategories, populate it with specific deadlines and so forth, and he's able to actually write the agreed plan into the source of truth document at the end. So this is just an example of what Liam can typically do for you. Moving into Judy. So Judy is more from your priorities managers. She'll keep your priorities straight, surfacing and escalating what's urgent.
Hey, I'm Judy.
Slips. Now, isn't this one of the issues that a project managers often struggle with, is that by the time that you realize something is wrong, it's too late. It's already got, the issue has already occurred. So Judy can typically come and step in and flag escalations before it actually occurs, putting you into that proactive state instead of the reactive state. I'm not going to go into each and every single agent, but I just wanted to show you how cool this is, how really, nice.
Hey, I'm Josh.
For different AI agents. And because a lot of them are already pre-configured, super easy to actually just go and tap into them. More importantly, you'll be able to also add certain skills to these AI agents. Now, what does this mean, right? So I'm going to give you a quick example. I've created an AI agent specifically for my sales department. But one of the things that my AI agent does is I've given her a skill where she can write HTML emails. Just imagine that. So literally no coding, no me wanting to try and figure out how to put a button in or URL in a button, none of that. So my AI agents, one of her skills is to do the HTML email signatures or HTML emails, and she's been prompted to actually action these specific emails at certain points. So why is this important? Just think about from a project management perspective. Let's say you want to be able to actually update your customer as you progress through these different phases of your operational journey, right? You don't need to do that manually. So one of your agents can actually come into play, and one of your agents can typically go and you can pre-configure the agent to say, as soon as I move from a new projects phase into pre-construction, I want to be able to give my customer an update. So remember Ben's main issue of the customer keep on asking, how far are you? When are we done? What's going on in terms of timelines and so forth. Now you're eliminating that. So automatically, every single time you move over to a new phase, your AI agent can automatically update your customer. That could be via email. But from a WhatsApp perspective, we can also integrate your current WhatsApp stack, WhatsApp Business API into this platform. So when you do change the status, not only does it actually move over to the next phase, but it can trigger a WhatsApp template message over to your customer and also give your customer an update via WhatsApp. So those are just some of the tweaks that you can typically look at. There, from an AI perspective, there is, of course, Sidekick. Sidekick, you can at any point in time also use and set up. Sidekick is like having a Gemini live inside of Monday.com. So instead of me having to go out of Monday.com, let's say use Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever the case may be, I can now actually go and say to Sidekick, I want you to be able to actually give me a quick rundown of where are we. So let's say this, what needs my attention today, or prep me for my meetings. Just imagine that, guys. So before you go into your meeting with your customer, you can actually ask Sidekick to go and do a complete glimpse of what is going on with this customer inside of Monday.com. Now, if you typically incorporate Monday.com for your full business organization in terms of your different departments, let's say sales, support, and onboarding or projects, before projects reaches out to the customer, Sidekick is actually able to flag and say, listen, when you do reach out to this customer, just note they've actually logged a support ticket. They wanted to add an additional user. So now when you start speaking to your customer from a project perspective, if a customer now mentions, yeah, I've logged a support ticket with your team yesterday, you are actually on top of it and you are well aware of what is going on, even though that forms out of your department. So these are just a couple of really nice features that you can tap into. Note taker. I'm sure that you guys have probably noticed my colleague that is recording this session today, the purple llama in the room. Now, note taker is typically that purple llama that joins your calls. But why I think note taker typically adds a lot of value is after each and every single time you typically have a meeting with your customer, note taker goes and automatically shares not only the meeting notes, but the full video recording, next steps, and so forth inside of this actual customer. So in your updates, you'll be able to see note taker's notes, again, saving you time because you don't need to manually go and load that there. So that is just some of Monday.com's features that we can typically tap into. I'm going to move back into the slides and yeah, let's take it from there. So I think let's have a look at Ben again. What does Ben look like after having implemented Monday.com, more specifically work management, shall we? So this is the payoff. It's the same Ben, same development, but now everything from your architect sign off through to your interior finishes lives on one board, updated in real time. So now when his clients asks Ben to how the build is going or whatever the case may be, Ben does not need to chase 4 different people anymore because the dashboard already has the answer. So in Ben's day-to-day, what does this actually mean? It means that his plans are approved at the same time and not days later anymore. He's got real-time visibility, not only for himself, but all stakeholders with literally one click of a button. And now you're managing your projects in a proactive state versus reactive. So Ben has not only saved some time, but he's working more efficiently, and everybody now actually knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So Ben used to spend a Friday night stitching spreadsheets together for a board update. Now it's a live dashboard that he can share his screen with in seconds. Now, it's normally at this stage where everybody goes, this is fantastic, this is great. but how do we start? And how does setup work? So this is where the messenger network comes into play. For the customers on this call today, where we've already implemented WhatsApp Business API for, you know that we've got a hands-on approach and we've got dedicated onboarding teams to actually help you execute and reach your main goals. The same is going to happen and the same works when it comes to Monday.com. From a sales perspective, we help to identify your current bottlenecks and we help to actually plan out which plan, whether it's a CRM, work management service or dev, is going to work best for you. And typically from there, we'll plot out what the blueprint can look like if you move over to Monday.com. Then, because we are a dedicated Monday.com partner, you can actually sign up with the Messenger network and you can tap into a couple of promotions that we, together with the Monday.com team, set up for you guys. And then it's a full hands-on approach in terms of setup. There's different ways on how you can typically tap into our services. You might need the Messenger network only from a once-off perspective, or you might need us on a continuous basis where we help you not only with the initial implementation, integrations, setting up the different automations and actually training staff, but you might need a little bit more from a support and a maintenance perspective on a monthly basis. So we are really flexible in terms of what you typically need from us, and we'll be able to offer that to you guys from there. That is a wrap from me, everyone. It feels like I have done all of the talking for the last 45 minutes, but we are now officially open for Q&As. So please feel free to share any current bottlenecks or any questions that you guys might have. I know when you typically signed up for today's webinar, we did ask you in the booking section, what are the day-to-day bottlenecks or limitations or frustrations that you guys are typically facing? And people on this call today actually mentioned to us that there's so much admin that you need to do, but there's little hands to manage it. So I think it would be really great if we can get some insights. I don't want to point or put anybody on, on the call, but if you are happy to share, if you think that what we looked at today can typically actually solve that issue for you. We also had another customer saying that there's not having an internal platform to manage the team, and then just overall efficiency. So I'm going to open up the Q&A section. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach or to ask them now. Hi, Brendan.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Morning. Good, and you?
I'm great, thanks. So we've got a bit of a unique problem for our company, right?
Yeah.
Where we don't just deliver one service. We do website hosting and website designs and social media, management and SEO and a bunch of stuff, but we also do IT support, right? And we mainly use Wati for our IT support side of the business, where clients can come in and ask us for support and we assist them.
Yes.
Now, it's not normally a long process. We normally support them within an hour or two.
Okay.
Assisting the client. So how would this Monday, everything you just showed us fit in with that kind of a workload? So obviously, the website design and development aspect of everything, it would work perfectly for that, right?
Yes.
However, for small projects or things that only last, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, how would this kind of feature set fit into that?
Okay, well, that's a really great question, and thank you for giving us a little bit of insights on what you guys do. So I think from a marketing agency perspective, I know specifically Freedom, you guys also offer different packages. So you might have a customer that's on a standalone package, or you might have a customer that's on a support package. And when a support ticket typically comes in via WhatsApp, your staff members actually need to be able to know how to handle that typical customer. Do we bill or do we cover it under the maintenance on a monthly basis? But surely you also need some sort of a tracking tool to be able to report back and say, guys, we have actually received 100 support tickets this month. And funny enough, 10 of them came from the same customer. So that is actually where you can start drilling into the analytics, but it also saves all of your support tickets on one single dashboard. So exactly the dedicated workspace board that we've created for Ben, you can typically have one that's dedicated to your support team, and you can load the support members from your team inside of Monday.com. And again, from a resource allocation perspective, and just to understand, but how many tickets did Peter actually manage today? And how far is he with these support tickets? So I think it's great that you guys already, look after the support tickets from a 1 or 2 hour perspective. But if there is any bottlenecks, or if a support ticket was not properly managed, Monday.com would actually give you a full glimpse to actually see what that looks like. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks, Brendan. Anybody else? Justin?
How's it, Anel? I just wanted to double check. I've now signed up to the 14-day sandbox, and I've started playing around on there.
Nice.
But now I've realized we're going to be building more of a ERP kind of setup for the whole enterprise.
Okay.
I just want to be sure if I start building weird and wonderful things on that sandbox, and we do decide to purchase the full license, that I can carry all of my previous work across. That
Yes.
won't be okay.
Absolutely, Justin. Yeah, I'm super glad to hear that you guys have already registered. I know that you were in the CRM webinar last week, so that's really exciting. So yes, I mean, just to confirm, we will typically engage with you on Friday. I believe we've got a catch up then. But everything that you do on the sandbox model, as soon as you activate it within the 14 days, all of the data and everything that you've already started playing around with and configuring would stay on that dedicated platform. And just to mention that, I mean, you guys have now signed up for the sandbox account on the CRM, which is a little bit more focused from a sales perspective. But even though you guys are also managing projects, I think it's just a good time to also mention to everybody on the call that you can have one dedicated Monday account, and you can have the different plans inside of the accounts. In other words, everybody from your organization will have one unique URL, Monday.com URL, that you'll access. And if Anel is situated in your sales team, I would typically be working off the CRM inside of Monday.com. But if Justin is more on the project side, Justin would typically be working off the work management side inside of Monday.com. So we're breaking down those silos as we move over. Thanks for the chat, Justin. Righty, anybody else, guys? Okay, I think that's it for today. We managed to finish just in time. So thank you so much for everybody joining today. I know how busy everybody's schedules are. I hope that this added a lot of value and that it really sparked new ideas of how you can actually save time. I always say, how can we buy back time and just be a little bit more sufficient? So I hope that this is what you managed to see today. Quick heads up before you go. This is part of a series. So as you've mentioned through this call, we have actually started with the CRM webinar last week. Today we covered the project management side. And next up is your customer service. So the sale is done, your build is now complete from a project management perspective, but how do you actually deliver the best possible experiences? And Brandon, this is typically where I think it can add a lot of value from a support perspective. And that's actually what we will be covering 1 week from today, next week, the 15th of July. So please keep an eye out for the invites where we'll specifically delve into Monday.com service. But before we close out, we have put together an exclusive offer to help you kickstart your July. Firstly, we've got a 14-day sandbox account. This is not an empty trial account. It already has pre-configured, it's a pre-configured environment, so you can actually feel what a structural order looks like inside of your business. And that is going to go out to everybody after this call today. I almost feel like Oprah, you get one and you get one. But secondly, if you are ready to move a little bit faster, we are also running an enterprise launch promo through the Messenger network. So we will, with these trial accounts that you can sign up, as soon as you are ready to actually convert them into a paid account, for every single enterprise deal, you actually get 1 month for free, completely on us. And we believe that that will give you enough time to build, train, and launch with absolute zero pressure. So that's it from me, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Until next week, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.